On today's episode 24 of Sculpt N Create, we're diving into a powerful conversation around grief, healing, intuition, and staying connected to yourself, especially as a creative navigating life, loss, and purpose. I'm sitting down with Stacey Niedentohl, an evidential medium, spirit translator, spiritual healer, mentor, retreat facilitator, and the author of My Head Knows, But My Heart Still Hurts in My Crystal Addiction Diary. In this episode, Stacey breaks down what it really means to heal at the soul level, not just emotionally or mentally, but energetically. We talk about grief and loss, shadow work, manifestation, intuition, and how creativity itself can be a healing language. We also explore how artists, entertainers, and creatives can stay grounded while navigating intense emotions, identity shifts, creative blocks, and pressure without losing themselves in the process. Stacey shares her own journey through anxiety, panic attack, spiritual awakening, and how answering her calling ultimately led her to helping others reconnect with themselves, their purpose, and even their loved ones who've passed. This conversation ain't about fear, gimmicks, or labels. It's about awareness, healing, and learning how to come back home to yourself. If you're a creative who's ever felt disconnected, blocked, overwhelmed, or searching for clarity, this episode will speak to you. Let's get into it. Welcome to Sculpt N Create, where fitness fuels creativity and helping artists, entertainers, and creative towards their journey in their physical, personal, and career growth. I'm your host, Trea Da Fit Artist, and who I got with me today is Stacey Niedentohl. She's a evidential medium, spirit translator, spiritual healer, speaker, mentor, retreat facilitator, and the author of 2 books, My Head Knows, But My Heart Still Hurts, and My Crystal Addiction Diary. Welcome to the show, Stacey.
Thank you so much for having me, Trey.
I'm glad you can make it. Now, I did give you a little bit more of an intro, but at the same time, let everybody know where they can find you. Maybe partake in your services and so forth, and we can go from there.
Just about everything to find me under is either Connecting to Spirit or Connecting to Spirit with Stacey. You can Google my name and you'll find all different types of information about me there as well. I'm on most of the social medias. The website is very informative, though. That has all the booking and information about what I do and where I go and how to get in touch with me.
Okay, cool. Y'all check Stacey out. All right, so let's get into this, Stacey. Now, let's talk about, you kind of said it a little bit, but I kind of said it a little bit in the intro, but tell us, what do you do?
So I'm an evidential medium, which means I'm able to connect to the spirit realm, to those who have gone before us. I say spirit translator as well because I'm translating the message from your loved one to you. A lot of people don't always know what an evidential medium is, so that's why I say spirit translator. In that, it enables you to heal. And I help people walk through healing, deal with traumas and things like that that are at the spirit level, at your soul level. So you can walk through it through shadow work and manifesting and just allow yourself to reconnect with yourself. We all tend to get lost. I do that. I do privates as well as in groups. I do a women's empowerment retreat once a year. We're going in October. Haven't put that all together yet, but that's all exercises and meditations and just ways to, like I said, reconnect with yourself, with your energy, and walk through stuff that maybe you've pushed down.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Now that you did mention the shadow work and the manifestation, so not necessarily like just as most people would look at it or think about it, that you talking to the dead or so forth and so forth, or solely that. It's more so as well, basically finding, depending on what they're going through, is like looking within and having a certain outcome, right?
Correct.
Okay.
We get with the world, anyway, the world is with loss of either losing a loved one, losing a job, losing a spouse. We all go through some type of grief. And then all of a sudden, we don't know how to act. We don't know how to respond. When I lost my mom, I didn't know how to be a person without a mother. So I had to work on that. And instead of being stuck in grief, I had to think about the things that she taught me and continue her story.
Okay. All right. So definitely understand, and we all dealt with some level of grief, whether it be some traumatic experience or whether we have lost a loved one and so forth. And we always hear that everybody grieves in a different way. I remember when my dad passed away, people was expecting me to feel a certain way. I mean, he died on a Sunday. I went to the gym that Monday. And, and my workout partner, he was like, when I told him, man, my dad died, because he kind of knew my dad a little bit. And he was dumbfounded, like, why you here? I mean, I was like, man, if you wouldn't know my dad really, you would know this was how he wanted, and so forth.
Right.
So, but with that said, so like, how do you help people with their grief? Because there's a lot of ways that, people, like I said again, people have their ways of dealing with grief. So how does what you do help them with their grief and in various ways?
Well, if they're coming in for a reading and I connect with their loved one and I can give them a message from them, you see all of a sudden the person who has lost someone has that reconnection. So they have the validation to know that their loved one is okay. If
Okay.
they're really stuck in grief, we go through the book basically. My head knows, but my heart still hurts, because that's exactly what grief is. Your head understands that the person's not there, but it's trying to get your heart to understand it again. I often say that when I lost my mom, it was a different type of grief, because I had lost people before and I didn't really lose them. I mean, they passed before before me, but I felt homesick. And I felt homesick because all of a sudden home wasn't the same. And that was
Mm,
the home within myself. So I had to reconnect with that through meditating, through journaling, through talking to others. Sometimes grief is so in depth that therapy, and I'm not a licensed therapist, but I have several good friends who are, that if it's beyond what I can help them with, I'm like, here, call this person. They can
gotcha.
help you.
Okay. And that's interesting that you said that, because I was going to ask you, like, what are the parallels between the therapist and what you do? And, because some of that is a lot, well, not some, but a lot of that is dealing with the, mental space of a person and how they, and an emotional state of the person and so forth. So what is the parallel between that? And it sounds like, your scope of practice and so forth, and to be able to refer out. So talk about that.
Yeah. Well, if you look at a licensed therapist, they are dealing with the left brain, the logical brain, the tools to
Okay.
put in place, and
Okay.
how to, if you feel something coming on, you know how to respond or how to react to it.
Hmm.
Spiritualism is the right side of the brain. It's your intuition. It's your thought process of dreams or of setting goals and reconnecting with your energy. So I help the energetic part of the person, where a licensed counselor would deal with the physical. Does that
Okay.
make sense? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And so do you like work in tandem with them when this happened, or is it like
Mhm.
somebody that, or is it just solely they come to you for this and nothing else, or how did that work too as well?
Well, I mean, if somebody comes in for a reading
Hmm.
and I bring the reading through and we get to talking about different things, I do a psychic reading, which tells me what's going on around them, as well as a mediumship reading, which is connecting with the other realm. And then there's times that I'll do a soul to soul reading with them as well, because they feel like they're lost somehow. They don't feel like they completely belong on this earth, or they don't know what their soul purpose is. So that's when I may do like the soul to soul reading, when I'm connecting with their energy, explaining to them where their spirit, where their soul is leading them, and just see if that resonates with them.
Okay. All right. Got you. So let's talk about the shadow work part of, because those two things I
Hmm.
want to talk about: shadow work and the
Hmm.
manifestation. So with the
Hmm.
shadow work, what did that entail? Like, what is that about? Because I think about, as I told you during the pre-interview, when my grandma passed and how that affected me later on,
Hmm.
and how I was able to cope with it or really make some sense of it, or in a sense talk to her when I was through my writings in elementary school and so forth. So in a way, I'm thinking that if I'm making a parallel, a connection, right, is that kind of like shadow work, or what is shadow work?
Shadow work is more like you are looking within yourself to
Hmm.
figure out why you have the mannerisms that you have.
Okay.
For instance, years ago, I've been married to my husband, Jeff, for over 31 years. And while I was doing a podcast, I was talking about shadow work. And I said, my husband always gives me a rough time because I never say, I'm sorry. I always say, you still love me? And I'm like, I'm not really sure why. And then all of a sudden, I went back to the first time that I got a very derogatory answer back from someone who was very important to me when I had said to my father, I was probably like 16 and I did something stupid, 16-year-olds. And I apologized to him and he said, no, you're not. You don't even understand what sorry is. Don't you ever tell me that you're sorry again. So it left me know that was a stumbling block for me. And then my ex-husband was not a very nice person. And he always said he was sorry, but then he would be violent again. So it taught me that me saying I'm sorry doesn't mean anything. And someone saying they're sorry to me doesn't mean anything. So
Okay.
I had to go back to those memories and say to myself, when you tell somebody you are sorry, you have to truly mean it. I am not my ex who didn't really mean it. And I'm only responsible for my reactions. I wasn't responsible for the reaction of my father. So that's part of shadow work, and then working from that and practicing forgiveness and grace because of those situations. But it usually is something that you had a negative response to when you were younger
Okay.
that conditioned you to not feel like you mattered or what you said was important. So you figured out a different way to do it.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. So I guess when I was saying that in my question and so forth, when you think about it, like, then get on topic for as the art entertainers, when you think about that, like I said, that's me for as how I was able to start, right, like realizing my creative talents and so forth. But
Mm-hmm.
when you think about artist entertainer, whether that be a music artist or musician and so forth, they going through something that's maybe like you just said, they went through something traumatic, whether it's abuse, or death, or something like that. When they speak that out, is that a form of shadow work where they releasing it out there? Kind of like finding the inner within, or the reasoning from it, or a way to cope with it in a so way, instead of like going to drugs or going to other type of means of extremes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a type of shadow work
Okay.
because with artists, that's all right brain. So that's your intuition and your connection to not necessarily what reality is.
Okay.
So when an artist is creating music or lyrics or whatever, it just comes sometimes. It just flows. The left brain isn't going, oh no, that doesn't make sense. The right brain's just going, this is how it is. So in essence, when you were saying about connecting with your grandmother through writing, because you're an artist, you're actually channeling from your grandmother and to your grandmother.
Okay.
And that was healing. So it is a
Okay.
form of shadow work.
Okay. Yeah, so that I was coming from it with, and so forth.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, God, like when you think about now this about too as far as what you do, would you say what you do is connected to music therapy? Maybe you use some type of music or some form of that into that. Like talk. I know you're not a music therapist, but can you talk to that dynamic
Yeah.
or whatever?
It's all vibration.
Okay.
We're all energetic vibration. And the higher our vibration is, the
Mm,
more we can connect to other
yeah.
vibrations.
Right.
So I'm that person that if I am in a bad mood or something, I am blaring Pinks, I want to start a fight because I can feel the release of my anger instead of taking it out on someone. When we
Mm,
go out and we're listening to a band, I don't care if no one's on the floor. I'm on the floor because I feel the music. I don't just hear it. It's that vibration, it's that connection to the notes and to the tunes. And that's what raises your vibration to give you either happiness or positive
right.
energy
Yeah.
or negative energy.
Okay. Exactly, 'cause that's where we flowing right now. So 'cause that's where I was
Yeah.
gonna say basically where uh, like, I know you heard about the. I don't. I'm not gonna go into it like I know fully about it, but I have heard of the. If I'm saying it right, Fibonacci sequence or something like that. There's a certain frequency or something like that that we respond to. But
Hmm.
when we talk about music and so forth, it's a certain thing that they put it on a certain decibel, and where it incites a reaction, whether it be anger, whether it be sadness, so forth. We got these type of different, like, moods or whatever. When you got your playlist, you got a certain playlist that you're gonna say, okay, this is my happy list. This I just got paid here, or this is finna go walk down that.
Right.
You got certain things to make you feel a certain way to put in certain moods. So would you
Yeah.
say that's in a way of putting yourself in a state where in a emotional and yet spiritual state when it comes to vibrations and stuff like that you speak of?
It absolutely is, because it connects with our energy, and we either meet that vibration where our energy is up, so we can meet that vibration, or if the vibration is lower, we go lower. But singing bowl therapy and music therapy and sound therapy is amazing, and there's different tones for each chakra. So if someone's doing chakra therapy and it's sound therapy on you, and they're using the singing bowl like for your throat chakra, you literally can feel like energy being directed right here, because it's a certain, what's the word? It's a certain binormal by
Bipedal, bipedal.
yes. So there's certain tones that hit different parts of our body that will release the energy and the blocks that are within it. Think about when you go to church
Mm-hmm.
and everybody in the church is singing, and you close your eyes for a minute and you're not singing, and you hear all that. You get these chills. You go to a concert, your favorite song is playing, everybody's singing along,
Mm-hmm.
and you close your eyes and you get these chills. That's why like if we go to a basketball game or a football game or so, I need to sit up high, because I don't need all that energy, all that vibration coming down at me, because
Yeah.
it's too much. God bless the players. No wonder they get angry or, revved up, because all the energy from the crowd is coming literally right down at them.
Okay, I can see that is. And then you look at how the stadium is made.
Yeah.
It's made to flow down. You know what I'm saying? So I
Yeah.
guess it's or whatever. But I can see you going away from it. That's a good
Hmm.
interesting way to think about it there. Okay, I understand you on that. So now the manifestations. So I don't usually we don't hear that for as what you do for because what you do we don't really hear about the manifestation part of it. So can you explain that? Because usually like we thinking mostly the naive people they thinking of like where you just speaking to the dead and this or that or
No.
whatever.
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. So manifesting is creating a vision of
Mm,
how you want your life to look, or how you want a certain situation to be.
mm, yeah.
And you're visualizing it, and you're putting those things in place so that the universe knows, here's what she wants. What I used to do, and I learned about a year ago, I would have, this is what I want. And I would have this grandioso, this thing I wanted to manifest, but I would always have a plan B. So if plan A didn't work, I'd settle for plan B. Well, I was always thinking about plan B. So I manifested plan B. No more plan Bs. If you say, oh my gosh, this week is going too good, when's the bottom going to drop out? You've just manifested something to come in and get rid of your good week, instead of saying, today's going to be a magical day. It's going to be the best day ever. I
Mm,
invite good things in. I see these things coming into me, and I accept them. And then I always put the disclaimer on it, or something better. This is what I'm seeing, or something better. Now I don't need a plan B, but I have to speak it, and I have to believe it,
yeah.
and I have to see it in order
Yeah.
for it to come.
Right. I like that a lot. You hear a lot of entrepreneurs and people, artists, entertainers. We tend to be the dreamers, and so forth. We don't really think about anything else, but the objective that what we want to do and what we love doing, because we get so entrenched in it that it becomes every fiber of our being. And yeah, so and when you speak when you say that you speak life on it, life and death lies at the power of your own tongue. You don't heard that, probably heard that. I know everybody heard that before. So I was seeing something on TikTok or whatever where the guy was saying the definition between future and past, where you speaking something into the future. When you speak about something, before it's done, that's you speaking it already into the future. That's what the definition of future is. And then the vice versa for the past. The minute you start thinking or saying something about the past, the more you stay in that past. So that's definitely how basically how you were just describing it was how manifestations work. So how do you help people with their manifestation, like break those mental barriers, those, physical barrier, whatever that's holding them down, and being able to manifest whatever their goals, desires are?
Well, I mean, we talk about what they want to do, and then we break it down a little bit. And we look at what are some of the steps that you can do every day to get to the end point. And the main thing I always say to my clients is you got to watch how you speak. Because if you say, well, this is what I want, but it's never going to happen. Well, you're not talking like it's going to happen. Jim Carrey, before he was even anybody, wrote a check, I think, for $1 million and told his dad, one day I'm going to cash this check. And when his dad died, he had made the $1 million, but he put the check in his dad's pocket.
Yeah.
Tom Petty, one of my favorites. I saw an interview with him, and he could write like 5, 6, 7 songs in a night. And one of the interviewers said to him, well, how do you do that? And he said, well, I get in a certain state of mind and it just comes. And he said, if I question it, then it's going to stop. So I don't know how it comes. I just know I prepare and I say, I'm going to write a song tonight, and it comes. So that's the mindset that you have to have, because you're telling the divine creator, God, the universe, here's what I want from you. Here's what I'm willing to do. I will sit here and I will trust that you will give me this song tonight. And I'm going to sit, I'm going to breathe for a minute. I'm going to start scribbling. And then all of a sudden, words are going to come out. And I even tell some of my clients when they do dream journals, every morning when you get up in the morning, they're called morning pages. You just write for like 2 or 3 minutes.
Okay.
That helps you to recall your dreams.
Yeah.
And even if you don't know what to write, just say, Stacey told me to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know. But this is what Stacey, there was a red ball. And then all of a sudden it starts coming because you've got this going and it's connecting. And it's the energy of not overthinking, just letting it flow. And it comes.
Okay. Which comes to mind, I heard the story about Michael Jackson, where he was sleeping. Something came to him in a dream or something like that, or a song. And he immediately woke everybody up. It was like, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And he woke everybody up to like we got to record this now or else Prince gonna get it. So do you think that's so do you think that's in the same realm of what you're saying for the spiritual nature, the manifestation and the frequencies and so forth, all that intertwined, that you're getting it from somewhere that?
It all goes together. It's clearing the mind and receiving what comes, listening to it, and paying attention.
Okay.
And even if it doesn't make sense, you're still writing it down. Years ago, I was having some issues with a parent, the one I couldn't apologize to. There we go. Never mind. The cat's out of the bag. And I was really struggling with it for a long time. And I meditated. And I wanted to know, because I felt guilty about not feeling guilty about not being really in his life. Everybody, you've got one father, like, you need to make this right. But I had struggled for 50 years with this man. And when I went down and I meditated and I wrote, one of the things that came to me, and I will never forget it, it says, why would you send a rabbit into the lion's den? You are the rabbit, he is the lion. So that's not something that I normally would like. And I'm like, what the hell is this? But the more I wrote, it made sense that I didn't need to be prey, which is what the rabbit is, to the lion. I needed to stand up to him, put some boundaries around, and say, you know what? I don't need your validation. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wish you well.
I feel you on that. So let's talk about like how this like let's go back like before you became a evidential medium, spirit translator, and so forth. Let's talk about like what led you down this path. Like how did this happen and came to be, and so forth. And, you go however far you need to go back, but before all that,
It,
yeah.
well, um, uh, probably, I guess it's probably been about 14, 15 years ago.
Okay.
All of a sudden, I started suffering with debilitating panic attacks, 15 to
Okay.
20 panic attacks a day. I
Okay.
couldn't have ticking clocks in my house.
Hmm.
I would sit at the bottom of my husband's legs, and he would put his hands on my shoulders because I felt like I was leaving my body. Would feel like my throat was clogging up, like swelling. We lived close to Gettysburg. We would walk around Gettysburg, and I felt like I was bobbing and weaving things because it felt like stuff was coming at me. And I went to my doctor a couple times, and I have a very good relationship with my doctor. And I'm like, I don't know if I have dementia or Alzheimer's or schizophrenia. Something's going on. And he, just kind of like to give us a look. You're not even 50 years old. I doubt that if it's Alzheimer's or dementia, you might be schizophrenic, because kind of I can be a little wonky. But he sent me to a counselor, and I did therapy. I was put on some meds. I did work through some things that I thought that I had already worked through. And in the course of that happening, my mother got sick. She
I'm
got
sorry
sick
to
in
hear that.
April. She passed in June. And what I noticed, I was so laser focused on her care, no panic attacks, no anxiety. I was listening to the doctors, taking care of my mom. So when my mom passed, and that was in June, a friend of mine was having a medium come to her house, and it wasn't going to be until March. And I said, I'll be there. It was a 2-hour drive, but I'll be there. And my husband was like, no, you're not. No, no, no. You're not going to see a medium. You're a child of God. And, he's giving me. And I said, well, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm going. Love you, but I'm going. And I went, and this medium told me so many things about my mom. I mean, she was spot on. But after the reading, and there was only 5 of us in this group, she looked at me, she goes, I want to talk to you privately. And I was like, oh, shoot, this is what my husband was talking about. What did I do? I'm in trouble with the woo-woo woman. And, right? So, the medium wants to talk to you after class. So she started explaining to me about my panic attacks and my anxiety attacks and ticking
Mhm.
clocks. And I'm like, oh my God. And how do you know? And she said, because spirit is all around you and they have a big job for you. And you either need to open up to it or shut it down. Otherwise, it's going to
Mhm.
make you crazy. And I kind of laughed. And I'm like, oh my God, I was just at my doctor's because I thought I was schizophrenic. I'm seeing, feeling,
Yeah.
and hearing stuff.
Right.
So I came home, talked to my husband about it. He was kind of half and half, skeptical.
Yeah. Right.
But I said to him, I understood everything that this medium said except for one thing. She kept
Okay.
saying, your mom keeps saying number one. And my husband's mouth dropped. And he was like, oh my God. So I'm like, all right, talk to me, Goose. And he said, don't you remember when your sister got married? I said to your mother, look, you're getting another son in law, but I'm number one. And when she would call our house, if I answered, she would ask for number one. So now all of a sudden, my husband is starting to believe that there's some possibilities of connecting
Okay.
to the spirit world. So I had a long conversation with God because I didn't want to
Mhm.
be tricked.
Right.
Born and raised in the church, adversary's tricky. And basically said, if this is what you want me to do, you have to put people in my path and give me signs that I cannot miss. And people started showing up. Things started happening. I was driving to Ocean City, Maryland, and there was as I'm talking to God about this, there was like the development signs that they have out is the name of the development. It was called Spirit Way. When
Okay.
I came back through, it was Bluebird Way.
Mhm.
So I'm like, all right, I got you. All right. And so I met a man at a bike show. My husband and I used to do bike shows, who was selling a sticker business. And that was one thing we didn't have in our booth, were the stickers that you put on helmets, because you have to buy a gazillion of them. And he was selling this sticker business, and we bought it at the show. And he goes, I just want to get my tables back. Like, we're 90 miles from our house. You could come back and get them, or you could come to us. And he's like, well, I actually live, kind of far. Well, when he told us where he lives, he's literally 8 miles from us. So we went to a bike show 90 miles away, met a man who lives 8 miles from us. He came to pick his tables up, started talking to me, and wanted me to meet his sister Sue and talk to her, who is in Colorado. Well, I'm a Leo. I don't just call people. So I'm like, here's my number. She can call me. So she called me and told me that, he had told her to call and didn't know why. And she asked me what I did for a living. I said, oh, well, I'm part owner of Hip Gypsy Emporium. It's a hippie biker boho, fantasy shop. And she goes, nope, that's not it. I said, okay, I'll play your game. What do you do? So she said, I do whole being alignments. I help people disconnect from past lives, from past traumas, so that their energy realigns with themselves. And I'm like, ooh, that's it. So we talked a little bit more. Now, this is a woman in Colorado who was coming to Hagerstown, Maryland the following week, which is 15 miles from us. She came and she met with me, and she did a whole being alignment on myself and my husband. It was the craziest thing I've ever been through in my life. And I'm not going to go into all of that. But anyway, so afterwards, I asked her if she would mentor me and teach me how to do this. And she said, oh, I don't do what you do. And I said, well, what do I do? And she says, you talk to those who have passed. You talk to the dead. And I'm like, no, I don't. Don't say that. Things like that freak me out. Like, no.
Yeah. I know it would.
So she can, yeah, right. I'm like, okay, this is getting, am I on like candid camera? I'm being punked. So she connected me with a woman in Australia who did a reading for me. And in that reading, she said to me, you've been connecting with spirit for a very long time. And I said, no. And she said, yes, you did. She said, did you have imaginary goats when you were small? I'm like, oh my God, I did. My father would give me a rough time. Are the goats coming with us? And she said, those weren't goats, my love. Those were ghosts. So you were already speaking to those on the other side, but you couldn't say ghosts, so you called them goats. And then she did a meditation to open up my third eye. And when that happened, I was instantly transported back into my bedroom in like second grade. I would have these horrible nightmares of an eye chasing me around. It was my third eye.
Yeah.
So I've had it since I was little, but it freaked me out, or I didn't understand it. So once that started happening and she told me that, I asked her to mentor me. She did a couple meditations with me, and after the third class, she's like, you don't need me, just practice. So I started practicing. I started with one-on-ones, and then, oh, can I bring my mom? Oh, well, my brother wants to come along. And then I was doing sessions of 5 people, and then there was 10, and then I was doing, gallery readings of, 35 or 40 people. But I got to tell you, it's been over 11 years since I opened up to spirit. No panic attacks, no anxiety attacks. I finally know that this is what I was supposed to do. I always knew I was supposed to help people, but I never knew how, where it was supposed to go. And now that I'm sitting in the space that I'm in right here with you today, there's nothing better that I would rather do than to help people deal with the grief of their loved one and knowing that the loved one is okay. And giving them that, I don't know, that breath that we hold after someone dies. And then if you get off the path because of grief, helping you get back on your path and giving you permission to have a bad day. And then giving you permission to have a good day and working through it. So that's where I am now. I've written 2 books. I've done speaking engagements, which we already talked about, but my goal is to help heal the world one person at a time and connect with the right healers, and so that we can do that, to have the ripple effect, the butterfly effect, because the world needs
Yeah.
healed. We all, what's the word? We're all recovering from life. We're all in recovery from something.
Yeah. Definitely not now. And they often say kids in their first like 5, 6 years or whatever, they do see spirits. I have heard that before, and then they don't have a concept of fear, so they look at things different. They see the world different. They a sponge. If you just really hone into what they gifts is as a kid, they can bring that out into adulthood and so
Mm-hmm.
forth. If but
Yeah.
we kind of like shun it or really like think like, man, or get scared in a sense and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. So going through that, or where you experiencing that as a kid, you probably wasn't knowing what was going on for real. But now you looking back at that as an adult, what do you think about that now? Like as a kid, the certain things like you supposed she put you back into, you said second grade, I think, and so forth
Yeah, it
as
was
a
second
kid,
grade. I remember
right?
that nightmare so vividly. It took me, I was in my bedroom, my yellow bedroom. I remember what the sheets and the comforter looked like that. And I remember like screaming because this eye was chasing me around. So I wasn't ready then. And I guess the panic attacks, the anxiety attacks, things like that were preparing me, because they were saying, okay, Stacey, we've waited long enough. And when Mom got sick, I know that after she passed, like, she was my connection to the spirit world. Because when she came to me in a dream, or if I would hear
Mm,
her voice, I wasn't
yeah,
afraid.
yeah,
But now when I do readings, she's one of the first ones I call in. Okay, Mom, I need you to help me. I need you to help me. You know, give me the words.
yeah. And something coming to mind. Like I can't pinpoint whatever TV show or movie I don't seen and so forth, but people who have lost a loved one, when you said that has like, I seen on TV before where like they can be going through something, like they don't got knocked out, or they don't go through some kind of trauma that just happened currently, and then they go into this type of, I ain't gonna say sunken place, but they go into this type of state where they maybe walking to the light, or they talking to someone that's getting them through there, like letting them know what's going on. Like why are you here? Do you, or it's not your time yet? You don't heard those type of movies and TV
Yeah,
shows and stuff like that. So okay, go
the
ahead.
near death experiences.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the NDEs, the near death experiences. Anita
Okay.
Mirjano has a fabulous story about her near death experience, and she's written, I think, 2 books about it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of people who it's not their time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sent back. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and gosh darn it, I can't remember the man's name, who died and decided he wanted to stay on the other side. And his guide, who met him in the light, was walking him in different places and explaining things to him. And all of a sudden, the guide says, "You're not going to like what happens next." And, he said, he thought to himself, well, what do you mean I'm not going to like what happens next? And he says, just hug me. So the man who had passed hugs the angel, hugs the guide, however you want to look at it. And at that time, he was laying in the hospital, and his brother came and laid his hand on his leg and was just like, Lord, I need my brother back. It is not his time. And when he heard his brother say that, instantly he left the spirit world and went back into his body. And he was in a coma for a while, and all these things that had happened. He was a weightlifter, and he had taken some type of like a powder that helps you to build muscle. And this
Mm-hmm.
was back in, I think, the 90s. And
Okay.
I guess in the United States, it got hard to get it. So he
Okay.
went straight to the distributor in Taiwan. And when
Okay.
he got the packet of it, it was all, none of it was in English. So he just was making it the way that he made this drink before. Well, when they send it from the distributor, it's like 100%. And when it
Mm-hmm.
goes comes to the United States, and then it's broken down where you only get like a percentage of this powder with everything else because there's vitamins and
Yeah.
stuff. So here
Yeah.
this man had ingested 20 times what
100%.
he was supposed to.
Right.
And he died in a bathroom and was found like he was dead for like an hour and a half.
Mm.
But they brought him back. It's an amazing story. And I'm not sure where I was going with that, but there are a lot of near-death experiences, and it's amazing to me that we can see on the other side of the veil where sometimes it's our time and sometimes it's not our time. I mean, I've got tons of stories about it. I'm a word nerd. I read books. I digest books and read stories
Yeah.
about this. It's amazing to me that you can experience that
Right.
and then come back, not wanting to
Mm.
come back,
Yeah.
but you look at your life a whole different way, and now you're able to help others heal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it definitely. I definitely heard a lot of stories of not the near death experiences, but I have almost drowned twice, and
Hmm.
I was like 5, 6 years old. It wasn't a lot I can, and then they really, when they say your life flashes before you, I guess I haven't lived a lot
You're
of life
five.
yet. So,
Right.
but I did see my life in a sense, I can speak to that, and everything like that. But it was all I can remember mostly. I joke about it. I said all I can remember probably a couple birthdays and stuff like that or
Yeah.
whatever. But I can't really explain it because I can't remember it fully. But I do remember that part where my life did kind of flash before
Hmm.
my eyes and so forth. But I do hear about stories, especially in my own household with my mom and my aunties and so forth, and dealings with the spiritual realm or certain happenings that you can't explain and so forth. So, but they don't ever like tied to spiritualism. They mostly like tied to, other things, for as like God put this in the past, not to say that's not what it is and so forth. And which segues to me what I want to talk about when you were saying, you was raised in the church, and so, and everything. And so am I, so have I. And the people in the church can be very unrelenting when it comes to their faith and beliefs and so forth, and with certain things. And if when it's out that particular norm or their teachings and their knowledge of certain things, they kind of like dismiss it and so forth. So can you speak to that? I'm sure once you started, it's like you already said, you had a little bit of hesitance from your husband and you were hesitant
Yeah.
yourself. So can you speak to that where now
Absolutely.
you in it, now you in the field now,
Yeah.
and you probably don't have to push back on all different angles.
Well, first of all, I still am and will always be a child of the living God.
Okay,
Always.
and I like.
Not
Okay,
taking that from me. Never.
okay,
And there are religious people who will instantly, walk away from me. I used to think I needed to defend it, but I got to the point where I was like, okay, so there's a difference between religion and faith. Religion is man-made. It's in a box and it's white or black. There's no gray area in them. So if it says this is what you're supposed to do on the 11th day, this is what you do, which I understand. But the Bible has been written and rewritten and written and rewritten in multiple different languages. And there's chapters of the Bible that were taken out. But some of the things in the Bible, if you stand firm on this
mm-hmm.
is the word of God,
All right,
who came to Mary to tell her
yeah,
she was going to
yeah,
have a baby,
okay,
an angel, Father, Son, and Holy what? Ghost,
Holy Ghost,
right? When you think about, there's this verse, and I believe this is how it goes. It's really close. I was trying to think where it's at. I think it's in 1 John. That says, Jesus said, greater things you shall do through me than I have done myself. Greater things I'm going to do through you than you've done yourself. Peter walked on water when he believed, but then when he lost his belief, he sunk. Jesus rose Lazarus from the dead. I can't raise anybody from the dead, but I can speak. There's the gifts of prophecy, or the fruits of the Spirit. One is prophecy. One is laying on hands and being a healer. Interpretations. Daniel interpreted Nebuchadnezzar's dreams. Well, how did he do that? Talked to God. He talked to
Mm.
spirit. Went into the
Okay.
lion's den. One went in.
All
So
right.
when I look at all this, so you're saying to me, because of what the Bible says about soothsayers, I am wrong. But all these other verses, and there's many more, I've got pages of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're telling me that my connection with Christ and how I am of service to him is wrong because you think I'm a soothsayer. So a soothsayer is the word that they came up with that was like the court jester, the
Yeah.
person that was selling the snake oil and
Snake
things
oil.
like
Yeah.
that, the fortune tellers. I don't tell fortunes.
Okay.
I don't
All
do
right.
future.
I think.
I don't do relationship, health, or future unless it comes up where I might say to you, as I'm talking to you, they keep drawing attention to your knee. Are you having some problems with your knee? Oh my God, I just had knee surgery. Okay, that's why they're bringing me to your knee.
Okay.
So how I feel is anything that I do through Christ is right. And it may need adjusted because I am not perfect. But I know if I sway or get big headed, God's going to go, yo, Stacey, chill. Here's your ego and here's me.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah.
Well, I choose God, you know?
Yeah. And I believe, and there's I don't know why I wanted to bring it up because I believe that's important to say because I know what you do, it definitely get roped in with the fortune tellers and all that, so
Mm-hmm.
forth, so forth, and everything.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, what that dynamic was, especially with you growing
Yeah.
up and your faith and so forth, in that manner. Okay, I got you. So now let's say when it comes to artists and entertainers and so forth, like what ways do you think you would be able to help them in whatever they be? And they ain't got to be just a music artist and so forth. I know you got the music.
Mm-hmm.
Your husband is a music artist, a
Yeah.
musician.
Yeah.
But in what ways, whether it be in any field or realm that a artist or entertainer is in.
Yeah. Well, it all depends on what their goals are. Let's say you've got an artist who is an awesome writer, but all of a sudden gets writer's block. So it's either a conversation, it's a meditation to go to where that block is. What happened when you
Yeah,
stopped writing? Where did it stop? It's meditating and saying, okay, while you're meditating, here's what you're going to do. You're going to meet I don't know. For me, I would be meeting Tom Petty. That's one of my musical idols, Tom Petty.
okay.
I would be meeting Tom Petty in my meditation, and we would
Hmm.
sit down on a bench, and I would say, Tom, I'm having a hard time writing music. Give me a couple words. Tell me something. And you know what? I'm going to hear something. I'm going to hear a tune. I'm going to hear words. Something is going to come out of that. And then when you come out of that meditation, you instantly write those things down, and it comes. It's just breaking whatever that block was.
Okay,
If there's someone who's struggling, if you're in the entertainment business, I got to believe that it's stressful as all get out.
definitely.
When Jeff talks about being on the road, you go to sleep and you're in Ohio and you wake up and you're in Chicago and you
Yeah,
don't know what state, what city you're in. You didn't see daylight. He was a roadie, so load in was at this time and load out was at this.
yeah. All the
So
time changes and
dealing
stuff
with
like
all of
that.
that, yeah, and not knowing what state you're in or what day it is, that can
Yeah,
really mess with the mind.
yeah.
So it's allowing yourself to say, okay, here's the things that we're going to do every day to check in with myself. Okay, we left Ohio, and maybe you're writing it down. Ohio, and today's 11/19. Tomorrow on the agenda, here's where we're going. And as I'm on the bus and I'm, being driven there, I'm going to meditate to reconnect with myself, disconnect with all the things that I've done. How many times do you go to bed and you have all these lists in your head? Tomorrow I have to do this, 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 and this. Write them down, get them out of your head. But it's allowing you to come up with practices that you can do to stay mindful and not disconnect from yourself and get frustrated or anxious or just want to go like, screw it, I quit. I just want to go home, you know? But it's those It's figuring out what the dream is, what the manifestation is, and then breaking it down into small bits and saying, why do you say you can't get here? You don't have to go from here. You're playing a little club in, Podunk, Maryland. I don't know. But you want to be at Madison Square Gardens. Well, you're not getting there tomorrow. So how do we get there? Okay, so let's hit some places in Maryland. Let's hit some places in Pennsylvania. Let's look at some places in Philadelphia, which is still Pennsylvania. But you're working your way there. Play a couple clubs in New York. Go to Madison Square Gardens. Get a VIP pass. Get behind. Go talk to somebody. Manifest it so that you're seeing it. You see that stage and you see the band, but now visualize you are that lead singer in that band, or you're the guitar player, or you're the drummer. How's that feel? How can we get there? So it's setting up ways to do that, but it's getting yourself out of the way. Because I would bet anybody says in the music business that's just starting out, I want to play Madison Square Gardens. All their buddies are like, yeah, you're going to play Madison Square. Yeah, I'll be there.
Right.
Yep. Going tomorrow? Where are you going? Instead of saying, I got you. Let's try. Let's go. You want to go down? Let's go check it out. So it's having the right tribe around you that's going to lift you up.
Most definitely.
And recognizing the ones that don't have your best interest at heart. So it's that spiritual life coaching type thing.
Okay. Yeah, and definitely, like, when I was thinking about the manifestation thing again, I remember Snoop Dogg saying something about one of his. He was speaking about death and so forth and murder and all that stuff like that, and then he gets on trial for murder, and he said from that day on, he wasn't, he stopped talking about talking like that. So death and life again, as I said earlier. So with that said, like, when you writing things down, do you think there's another form of you already kind of alluded to that, but when we're talking about putting it in song and not just jotting something down like a journal or something for it, but putting it in song, writing a lyric, do you think that's another way of manifestation, or is
I
it
absolutely do.
Okay?
Yeah, because you're singing it to the world. You're adding vibration to it.
Right.
If the world knows the song, they're singing it too. So you're putting it out into the universe. This is what you want. Yeah. So I love all genres. I don't care. I love all genres of music. I have to be in the right frame of mind.
Right.
But just like you were saying with Snoop Dogg, and I remember that an interview with him, he was like, I was manifesting exactly what happened to me because that's what I was singing about.
Right.
I was bringing it into being because my words were making it so. And I had to put energy behind it to entertain my audience. And they knew the words, so they were rising up with me. So I'm just putting fire on the fire. Got him where he needed to be, but it also took him somewhere he didn't want to be.
Yeah. Definitely. So, yeah, not only like I said, we going back into that again with the manifestation part of it, but it's also speaking a different energy as well. So whatever we speaking, even if we're not living that way, do you think it's like a halfway into it? Even though, like, let's say for instance, you have certain artists, we talking especially about the hip hop world or in the hip hop culture. Some of them, when they making music, is more like it's a character. It's not necessarily who they are or what they do. They mostly like writing a story or writing or portraying a certain or talking about a certain image or story and so forth that's similar to how a person would write a script for a movie or a TV show, just but just in a poetic musical form. Now, do you think in that way you still giving off a certain energy where whatever you write and whatever kind of type of music you make, it don't have to be just hip hop, like I said, it can be other forms of music that, like I said, you got a broad taste of music.
Yeah.
But do you think what we write, even if we're not living that and everything like that, you think we have like a, say, power or control of who else is listening to it or how we want them to act and do?
Well, that's a good question. That's a really good question because there's power in vibration. But if I'm a character and I am just perceiving what the words are, but I'm not believing it and taking it in, then I'm not really manifesting it for myself. However, if you've got an audience member who believes it and that's what
Mm,
they want to be, then that audience member could be manifesting it. That's a good story there. That's a good question. I'll have to ponder that. And I think you and I spoke about what happened with Jim Carrey when he was playing Andy Kaufman, that he got lost in the character because he became Andy Kaufman. Everywhere he went, that's where he was at. The guys from Sons of Anarchy were saying, we had to get off the bikes because I thought I was Jax Teller when, I'm not. Because they got lost in that character because that's who they were. So I think it's a fine line with that, but I don't feel like the actual artist would be manifesting it for themselves if it's a character, if they're not taking it on and being that person. Gosh, I can't even think of his name now. Isn't that awful?
you can describe him. Maybe I can help you out.
Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll, when he sings his songs, you can tell which ones are about him because he gets emotional with it. You can see it in the way that he portrays it.
Okay.
And I mean, other artists are like that as well, but I can always see it in his eyes. If it's not his song or somebody wrote it for him and yeah, he likes it and he sings it really well, he has a different stance. But if
Mm-hmm.
it's something that he wrote, it's the guy who was in jail for a while. Is that Jelly Roll? Anyway,
Jail for a while. He might have was. I don't know
I'm not
fully about his story,
sure.
but
Yeah, the one guy was picked up that I'm thinking of, and that might be Jelly, was picked up from TikTok, and then the other guy, I can't remember. Isn't that awful? I can
he
sing. Big guy. I think he did do some rapping. He did something with that.
was he black or white?
No, he's a white boy.
White boy,
Yeah, he's got
big
tattoos
boy.
all over him. Ah, that's all right.
All right, well,
That's all right.
but you go ahead. What you were saying?
Yeah, but that's when someone's talking passionately about something or singing passionately about it, that they believe in it and they want it to come, then they're manifesting it. But I feel as if it's just a role that you're not taking on, you're not manifesting it for yourself. However, someone else could be singing your song and bringing it out. And I was never the person who thought, oh, well, so and so did such and such because of this song. That person had their own ideas. They could do it themselves. They know right and wrong, blah, blah, blah. When I was a kid, the big thing was, with Ozzy Osbourne, the song Suicide. When
Mm,
kids started committing suicide, listening to that music, they went and tried to sue Ozzy. I'm like, they had to make this decision to do it. It wasn't Ozzy's fault. This was just words and music. And he was writing about a situation.
mm.
So that's it. I'll have to ponder that one for a little bit. I'll have to ask some of my higher ups.
Okay. Let me know what you come back on that because, like I said, I'm definitely
Yeah.
genuinely interested in that. Yeah, because I mean, I think about that, like, because that's what some, like I said, some of them do. In the hip hop world or the music and so forth, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of it's kind of shunned upon. We don't really. We try to like say, okay, that person who's writing this is that person, so we don't try to pull that veil over and say, okay, this is not who I am, because it can like
Right.
diminish the fan base and so forth and everything like that.
Right.
So get to that point, where okay, I'm just playing a character and everything like that. I wish it could be more open where people can make more decisions, stuff like that. Because you do have those people where they can. It's okay. I want to be just like this person, and that person is not that
Mm-hmm.
person and everything.
Yeah.
But I would say, but and there's not just hip hop. There's also other forms of music too as well.
Yeah. All different
Uh, you
types of
know,
music.
yeah, and I think it's a similar but different parallel when it comes to we were talking about Jim Carrey with the same ordeal. Heath Ledger was another person that comes to mind
Yes.
where he was so engulfed in his character with the
Yep.
Batman movie,
Batman.
and he couldn't really get out of it. I
Mm-mm.
have heard. I think there's a lot of method actors that get into this space.
Yeah.
I think that's another thing we talked about in the pre-interview too as well. I heard Denzel Washington, he was another person that said when he did Malcolm X, it was hard for him to get out of that role. A lot of people come to mind. So do you think this is like
Yeah.
a form of them channeling a certain spirit, letting them in to be able to do these certain roles. That's the reason why I'm coming up with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think especially with Denzel, since he was portraying Malcolm X, or Jim Carrey because he was portraying Andy Kaufman, and those they have passed, and you do so much studying and so much connecting and listening to their voice and hearing that I feel like they could be channeling them as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's a fictitious character, someone who has passed, who was high energy like Malcolm X, I mean, he was very, and so's Denzel. He's very, and I could see where that would be hard to step out of and step back from. But yeah, there definitely could have been some type of connection. That would be, I have to call up Denzel and say, listen,
Sit
when
down and
you were
talk.
doing
Yeah.
this, were you hearing voices? Did you see, you know? Because you see some people that'll say, and you've probably had this too, where you're out and about somewhere and you see someone, and maybe you've seen your grandmother who has passed. Like, that woman looked just like my grandmother. And then you look over again and she doesn't look anything at all like your grandmother. Well, your grandmother just went, hey, I'm right here.
Hmm.
Look over here,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I like come to mind. So like, okay. With that said,
Hmm.
should an artist or entertainer, when it comes to that, should they have that in mind when they are, in your opinion, like, should they have that in mind when they are taking on a role, when they are doing some type of, when they are putting certain song out and so forth?
Hmm.
Should they keep that in mind? Like, this is, one is my brand, but two is, what messages am I sending? Like, what would people get from this? Like, how would this make people feel or act in a certain way? Do you think that should be taken into account? And everything.
Yeah, I do think it needs to be taken into account. I don't believe there should be censorship in any way, but I feel like as a human of emotion, you want people to portray you a certain way. And if you need to tell a story in a song about something, you're not saying, go and do this. You're saying, this is the story that happened. So you're taking that stance on it.
Okay.
But that's part of like where the entertainers, where I was saying about setting up meditations or, checking in with themselves so they don't get lost in something. Even if you had a
Yeah.
good friend who was your gatekeeper, who would be
Right.
like, dude, what are you doing?
Right.
You're not Malcolm X.
Right.
Talk to me. You know, if you had somebody like that, or if you had some type of a coach that could give you that come to Jesus meeting,
Right.
and you
Right.
go, oh, whoa, that was freaky. Yeah, I did kind of get lost in that, didn't I?
And that's the reason why I bring it up, because we got like people like, and there's another thing. Yeah, I'm remembering more about what our conversation was a while back, and there's more about, like I said again, with Heath Ledger and
Hmm.
also Robin Williams. Somebody that is going through a very, Heath Ledger couldn't get out of a role, and then Robin Williams, was just in a depressive state. Like, so with that said, like that, do you think like that's what I'm saying? When they actually going for a role, or they making these type of songs and so forth, do they need to like think about in a certain way, finding some kind of, I'm segueing back to what you do, where they need to find some kind of help, where if they feel like they getting off path of who they are, who they is, what they do and so forth,
Yeah,
do they need to find some kind of way, like, because in our culture, we don't talk about therapy much and stuff like that. But
yeah,
in the entertainment world, there's so many stresses going on, like we said earlier. Do you think like talking to somebody, like yourself, or a therapist, or
yeah.
somebody, like you said, you have your support with your friends and family, and too, uh, doing it and doing so. And if so, how can they, like, how would they realize that they need help in a certain way? Because like, if you are an actor, if you a damn good actor, you ain't gonna realize you in that role for, and everything like that.
Right,
For a second. So how do they snap out of it? They playing it so
right.
good, they think they are that person. Especially if we talking about method acting. So how do they know to get out of that state, or they in a different state other than themselves?
Well, I mean, checking in with yourself,
Okay.
you know, maybe you say something you think, I would have never said that like, oh, that's the role. So it's being mindful of that. And even things like doing yoga or meditating or writing, but something that gets you grounded again. I would hope that a lot of actors would have, whether it's their agent or, their assistant or somebody that would say to them, look, something's not right. Something's not right. You may not be seeing it, but let me tell you,
Right.
something's not right. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, this is, and I'm not saying this to be, because there's a way to say things to people and there's a way not to. But I think all of us, whether you want to say that it's therapy, whether you want to just say it's getting grounded, I've got another coach that helps me come back. I've always thought all of our people who are in the armed forces, they teach you how to be a soldier. They train you how, but they don't teach you how to come back. There's got to be some type of coming back.
That's a good. That's a good. That's a
Yeah.
good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I think that's the same way with a lot of things. Your CEOs that have
Mm,
climbed the chain
yeah.
can be the biggest buttheads in the world
Right. Yeah.
because they're all business. I mean, I worked
Yeah.
for a man years ago that I couldn't stand, but I had a lot of respect for him because I knew his story. I knew how he climbed the ladder, but I would think to myself, you can still be a nice person. I know you're
Right.
all business, but we put these boundaries around us, these walls around us, so not to let anybody in. And then all of a sudden, we're not human
Hmm.
anymore.
Right.
You
Like
know?
like I said, it's come from a lot of different angles, whether it be from childhood, because that's another thing I was talking about, like with
Mhm.
the childhood actors. They are pushed into the adult world very early on, and they
Right.
go through things. When they come an adult, they fighting so much and so forth, they don't really know why. And you have those places like Britney, like I said again, Britney Spears comes to mind. She's a child actor. I can't think of any more right now. Well, it's a
Drew
couple of
Barrymore.
them. Drew Barrymore. Okay.
Drew Barrymore.
Yeah. So, what would you say to the dreamers out there for as they looking to get into the entertainment art space and so forth in that nature, like being true to themselves, staying tethered to themselves, like other than just having a quality friends and family around you that's not yes men or yes women and so
Yeah.
forth. What would you say to them when they're going into the like never lose themselves and how to stay grounded?
Yeah.
Like what would
Just
you tell them?
taking a day off, turning the
Okay.
phone off, going
Okay.
outside and putting your feet on the ground, taking a breath, going for a hike,
Okay.
listening to other music,
Okay.
because
Okay.
the thing with musicians is
Okay.
when they're listening to music, they're not listening to enjoy it. They're listening to it, not really to critique it, but
Yeah, yeah, I know
they
what you're
hear
saying.
different things.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when my husband and I go to a concert, I hear it a totally different way than he does because he hears the sound and oh, it needs more bass or what's the sound guy doing? I
yeah.
should go,
I know what you're
because
saying.
that's what he
Yeah.
hears. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
just listen to the music. I can't hear it because the balance is off. And I'm thinking balance sounds fine to me, right? So it's doing things that get you away from work,
Hmm.
you know, yoga, singing bowls and sound bowls, and it's just something that you enjoy that doesn't involve the entertainment business.
Okay. I like that.
Taking a step back, you know, remembering where you came from.
Okay.
And I can't think of the Eddie Murphy. I couldn't think of his name.
Okay.
Eddie Murphy carries a picture of himself when he was like in second grade. And he said, every time my pants got too big for me, my mom would say, pull that out, pull that
Right.
picture out. See that boy? That's who you are. Don't you lose that.
Right. Yeah.
And you got something that reminds you of who you are. Yes, you've accomplished marvelous things.
Hmm.
But if you're living in ego, those marvelous things are going to go away because it's going to stress you out. You're going to have
Yeah.
headaches or back pain or get sick because your body's going to say, you need a day off.
Hmm.
Pay attention to me.
Yeah.
And if you don't, down you go. I'll make you stay. I'll make you take a day off.
Right. Okay. I like that. And like I said, they are not only just what they are doing for us, the creativity and so forth can take a toll on them. It's just everything else. And like you
Hmm.
said, really recentering them, finding that, taking a break and so forth, to definitely decompress and get back to it and so forth can definitely work wonders. I definitely agree with that. I talk about fitness a lot, and they're definitely something, definitely a good stress reliever. It don't have to be anything. Just I would say it don't have to be anything fitness related. For is the aesthetic and health part about it. Well, it's still in health in a sense where it's relieving your mental state, helping your mental state out and so forth, and really alleviating stress in that way. But more what I'm saying is also therapeutic too in that manner. Okay. But I don't want to be, we still good. I don't want to take up too much of your time. But
Oh, you're fine.
um, are we good? Okay, cool. All
Yeah,
right,
yeah, yeah.
so all right, cool. So tell me, so now, like, is there anything else that you would like to talk about that we haven't discussed here today?
I think the main misconception is that life ends with death,
Okay.
and it doesn't.
Okay.
Your loved one never truly dies until the very last person on this earth speaks their name. Because as long as you are talking about them and telling their stories, you're keeping their spirit and their energies alive. If you're doing the traditions that they always did, my mom is right here with me. Her
Right.
blood's coursing through my body, you
Yeah.
know? So I carry her with me everywhere I go. So it's just allowing yourself to know that yes, death is awful. The physical is gone,
Mm,
but they're
okay.
still with you because they made this impact on your life that made you the person that you are. So you're either a better person because of them or you're a better person in spite of them, but they're still around you. They laid the footwork. I didn't know my great great grandmother, but because of what she did, and she
Yeah.
created my grandmother, who created
Mm,
my mother, who
yeah.
created me, because of the groundwork that they did, the blueprint that they did, this is who I am today.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's just, I don't know, staying connected with yourself, not having the blinders on,
Mm,
knowing that if your intuition is telling you something, it's not wrong.
mm, all right.
If you have something that happens that you're like, man, somebody was with me. That's not just a statement. Somebody was with you.
Mm, yeah.
But help heal yourself so that you can help heal the world. It's
Okay.
it's all in your heart. When you lead with your heart, you're not wrong.
Okay. I like that. So now one thing we didn't talk about, like, is you say I see here you stated that you are a retreat facilitator. So
Hmm.
what type of,
Yeah.
I think of retreats. It can be all type of different type of retreats. I don't know all of them out there, but like, in what way do you facilitate?
So I have facilitated a grief retreat to help people walk through the grief, through
Okay.
journaling, through my head knows my heart still hurts, talking
Okay.
about their loved ones, doing readings, teaching them giving them tools to connect with their loved ones or to feel them around them. Whether, let's say, it's the anniversary of your wedding and, you know, they're not with you anymore. What was a favorite thing that they used to like to do? You're going and doing that. When
Mm,
the 50th anniversary of my mom's passing, she always had red fingernails. Her nails were always painted red. I
mm,
never have red fingernails. They're orange or
right.
brown. Or I went and I
Right.
got red
Okay.
fingernails. And then in
Right.
my head, I'm like, Mom's holding my hand today. So it's coming up with the little things that keeps them still with you
Mm,
instead of you thinking, I'm going to be alone forever. Well, you weren't alone for this many years and they taught you
mm,
this. Let's talk about those stories. And then I do a spiritual empowerment retreat, which helps you to connect to what your abilities are. We all have some type of ability.
okay. Like that.
So we do meditations. We do different exercises. We do practice readings. We work with stones and crystals with the energy. I show them how to read auras. Not everybody gets every single exercise. It
Mm,
doesn't always click with everybody. But with the ones that do, they're like, oh my God. And then they can grow with that.
Mm.
And then whatever didn't click with them, something else clicks with, we did this. I had each of the women bring an item with them that belonged to somebody else and a photograph. And they were supposed to keep them tight to their chest. Nobody was supposed to see them. And when they came into the room, Denise, the woman that was helping me, she gathered all of those photos. We turned them upside down. And then everybody picked a photo. I did a meditation, taught them how to okay, I want you to look into this person's eyes, see them, talk to them, and write down whatever you hear.
Okay.
And every single person was like, well, this is probably going to be wrong, but here's what I got. And they would get some little morsel. It was so funny. The one woman brought this flashlight in, and the woman that was picking up, it's called psychometry.
Mm.
And she goes, I only got 3 words. I saw a kitchen, a drawer, and movement to a car. So the woman goes,
Right.
okay, so that flashlight was in my kitchen drawer.
Mm.
We moved.
Mm.
I now work night shifts. And my husband
Right.
said, you need to put this flashlight in your car so that when you're walking to and from work, instead of keeping it in the kitchen drawer. We have 4 flashlights in the kitchen drawer.
Mm.
So she read the energy of the flashlight. But it's picking up those things. I'm sure
Right.
you've met people where you think, something about this person doesn't feel right.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think I want to hang with. I'm going to just kind of observe. And other times you meet people and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've known you all my life. Because
Yeah.
your energies mesh.
All right.
You know?
Yeah, definitely. Term you hear, there's another way of saying there's another way of saying energy and so forth. And also, and like said, way back into with the artists, entertainers, like especially with the people who are acting, they have these chemistry readings and so forth to see what people mesh well with each other and stuff like that. So, in that nature, would you say?
Yeah. It's the same type of thing. You could have
Okay.
a very talented musician, but for some reason, they don't vibe with the rest of the group. So they feel like they're out on their own and
Okay.
not
Yeah, I
part of
see
the
that
group.
too.
You hear that happening all the time with different
Right.
groups. So he's a
Right.
fantastic drummer, but it just wasn't the right fit. Well, why wasn't it the right fit? I don't know. Something
Right.
just
Right.
didn't feel right. Something was off. Well, what was off? And that's that talk therapy too. Tell me why it felt like it was off. How did it feel to you?
Mm.
Well, it
Okay.
felt kind of suffocating. Why did it feel suffocating? Well, I don't know. The one guy reminds me of an ex-brother-in-law that I did not like. Why didn't you like
Mm.
him? He wasn't good to my
Mm.
sister.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was your sister's name? Well, my sister's name was Sally. Lead singer just wrote a song called Mustang Sally. And you find out what the energetic problem is. So now that you
Man.
understand this guy is not your brother-in-law who hurt your sister and wrote a song
Mm.
about her.
Yeah.
Maybe we can vibe together. Because if you can find that little thing that's off, you can fix it. Or you can just go, I wish you well, see you later, bye. You
Yeah, I
know?
got you. So basically, like you said, like you were saying before, is just basically checking in with yourself. Like, why do you, feel this way?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think this way? And kind of get to the root of the problem, and you can kind of act accordingly, or whatever the case may be, and
Yeah.
so forth.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's all part of shadow work. Getting to the core when you first had your negative experience from something that triggers something else. And maybe you've
Mm.
forgotten it and you pushed it down. And then all of a sudden, when you start asking yourself, well, why? Well, why? Well, oh my God. Then all of a sudden, you know. And then you have this
Yeah.
spiritual awakening because you don't feel heavy. You don't feel like you're being suffocated in the group. You don't feel alone because now you understand I wasn't vibing with them because he, or whatever the situation is. And then his energy changes. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what's different about you, but all of a sudden the group started getting along really well.
Right. Definitely. And I do hear a lot of that's the reason why a lot of groups they disband and so forth because
Mm-hmm.
the energy just wasn't all the way there. Maybe it was in the beginning, but
Yeah.
people change constantly. So certain things that they doing differently. It might be a certain situation that goes on, and they like a loved one don't died, or this particular thing don't happen, and so forth. So their mind is not mentally there,
Yeah.
or so they can't really make the song or hit that note like they can. They can't do that part like they were doing because they mental state is somewhere else.
Yeah.
And I think that goes into it again, like you said, they need that's really let's check in with yourself. Or when you check in with yourself, okay, you're like, okay, I need to take a step back, and if possible, and certain artists and entertainers got contracts and so forth. But like take a step back and like, look, I need to take some time off, get my mental right, and then proceed forward and everything like that to make not only just a healthy way of living for yourself, but also to have a healthy environment for your creativity and also your career as a whole, and everything when we
Yeah.
talking about artists and entertainers. Would you say that's a astute observation on
Yeah.
that?
I,
Okay.
I I mean I definitely think so, because imagine being the musician that's replacing the musician who just died. This guy's been with our group for 15 years. He helped us build it. You're trying to
Yeah.
replace him, you know? When Van Halen went to Sammy Hagar and David Lee Roth, left and went on his own, I was like, no, no, Sammy Hagar, what? He's Montrose. What? But then the more Sammy sang, I'm like, oh my God. But I had a little thing where I was like, I'm not ever listening to Van Halen again because they got rid of David Lee Roth, Leonard Skinner, the guys
Hmm.
that died in the plane crash, and, 38 Special formed. Well, they stepped away from Leonard Skinner for a little while, but then they brought that back. But it's finding where that uncomfortability is. Metallica
Hmm.
had a counselor or a therapist that traveled with them for like a year after the guys got sober, because now we have sober personalities
Right.
that are running overtime.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When you're drinking or you're on, doing weed or whatever, you're slowed
Yeah.
down. And so now
Yeah.
you quit that. Now all of a sudden you've got all this energy and you don't know what to do
Hmm.
with it.
Right.
And you got egos.
Hmm.
Just about all of them have egos.
Right.
I don't think the bass player does. I love him.
Yeah.
But, it's just saying, look, we're either going to make this work and talk about it, or I need to figure out why it's not fitting right with me. Maybe I
Mm,
need to talk to somebody, but it's just checking in with yourself. One of
mm,
my mentors years ago for my husband and myself would always say, your ego is not your
mm,
amigo. So if you were doing really well in the company and you're up on the stage and
mm.
you know what? You weren't on that stage a couple years ago. You got to
Right.
remember where you came from,
Right.
and if you get lost along the way, ask for help.
Okay. Gotcha.
Do a lot of reading, do a lot of meditating, whatever is yours. Like
Mm,
Joe Rogan, he kickboxes,
okay.
you know, that's crazy. I don't know if you've ever seen him kickbox. He's like a
Nah, I
double
haven't.
black belt or whatever.
I know
But
he commentated on fights and stuff like that before
yeah,
and everything.
yeah,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah. He's
Okay.
crazy. He's not crazy, but in a good way. Like to see
I
him
get what you're
kickbox,
saying.
I'm like, I would not want to piss that man off, you know?
Uh, is it just strictly kickboxing or is it MMA?
MMA.
Okay.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
don't think
Okay.
he participates now. I think he coaches, but he still is active in training.
Mm,
I mean, I've never actually seen him in the ring. I've seen like when he was, showing like snippets of what he did, talking about
yeah.
it. I'm like, man, dude.
Yeah. I got you. I'm learning. I'm learning a little bit more about it as I on the backside of it because I'm not a like boxing and all the I'm not really like a fight I mean it's cool but I'm not really a big fan to sit down and watch it and so forth. My client, he has became an MMA fighter, so he just started like maybe close to a year ago, and then he moved and he getting back into the weight until he got his feet grounded, and then now he getting back into the swing of it. So he already hit me up talking about like they getting ready for him to start, competing again, and stuff like that or
Mhm.
whatever. Yeah, he lost. He was doing the grappling stuff, and then he won that. I think he was like second or third. I don't think he had a one medal play, but his first fight he actually lost. And then, so he getting back into it and everything. So it's kind of interesting to see him, how he's, evolving and so forth. And then being on the back end of that with his workout routines and stuff like that, what he got to go through. And, he constantly let me know. So I was just asking to see what that was about. Now,
Yeah.
what we was talking about when we were talking about the drugs and so forth. Like with artists entertainment when they on drugs, a lot of them, you think of Jimi Hendrix, Eminem. They was on drugs and so forth, and they helped them to, in a sense, they say this is to help them to produce the art that they write, or make. What do you say in that state? That's them talking to Go ahead.
You know what? Maybe it did.
Okay.
Maybe it allowed their mind to slow down enough
Mm,
to not stop themselves.
okay.
So maybe it did help them. Sorry, I just knocked that.
It's all good.
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, years ago when I ventured, I could come up with some crazy stuff,
Mm,
and I would imagine that if I would have written some of it down, maybe it would have been cool. I probably would have looked at it and been like, what? But if you can get your mind to go where it needs to go by like toning it down a little bit, and I am in no way condoning drugs at all,
I
but I
understand.
could see where they would think that. I mean, good God, years ago, my husband and I we were sober for 17 years, and then my mom died, and then we started drinking again. So it's been like 3 years. But I swear to God, he and I would always say, we're better drivers when we're drunk. Oh, yeah, we're better. Were we? Probably not. So,
I got you. I mean, I don't have no answer for it too, but I thought, to ask that because this kind of like related to that. Uh,
mhm,
I don't know either. I know my cousin Eminem is one of his favorite rappers and so forth, and he was like, I hate to say it, but when Eminem got off the drugs and so forth, I don't like his music, and
okay,
everything. I liked him better when he was, he was on drugs and so forth.
okay.
So I don't know.
But
I mean,
maybe it's not the drugs, maybe it's the situation. So when
okay,
Eminem first started,
mm,
he maybe was trying harder.
mm,
Maybe other people were helping him critique because he was building his brand.
yeah, okay. So he don't
So
got
what's
too far.
changed? And I'm
He don't
not
got too
saying
far
he
removed.
doesn't try. Yeah, I'm
Go
not
ahead.
saying he's not as good as what he used to be. I'm not saying anything like that. But it probably wasn't just the drugs. He was scrapping them. Yeah, I'll put $500. Yeah, I don't care what I get paid. Just get me in front of the
Mm,
people.
yeah.
Well, now we want Eminem. Oh, it's $350,000 to get him on stage. He can pick and
Okay.
choose.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Maybe not. Yeah. I get what you're saying.
maybe he
Maybe not as
was,
home.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe
Maybe
it
not as
wasn't,
hungry anymore.
yeah, yeah.
No, go
I don't
ahead. I
know.
didn't mean to cut you off.
No, no, that's, well, and also if, when you're first starting, you're singing and practicing every day. Maybe he doesn't
Okay.
do that anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. Okay.
Yeah,
So it could be. Now, that it's interesting dynamic, and so forth, because you got artists thinking that they own drugs make them perform better, whatever the case may be. And then for my cousin to say when he got off the drugs, he hears difference in his music and so forth. So it's definitely a shift on both sides. So that's
yeah,
why I brought that up.
yeah.
And what the listener hears and what the person who making it
Uh-huh.
feels and hears when they make the music and so forth. But it all goes to what you were saying. They got to really find their self and constantly. When you think of with art, you got to constantly. A lot of us like to look for that muse or that inspiration for something to write down and so forth. And I guess with the drugs, that kind of brings it all out automatically, in a sense and so forth, because you do have the hallucinogens and so forth and everything like that brings those forth. But I think it just really boils down to them like thinking about as you said, getting out their head and really taking a step back to and live life a little bit, and everything. When we talking about writing, that is, so they can be able to portray that and put it out in the song and get rid of writer's block and be very creative or however they need to be and so forth.
Right. Well, and it's where they are spiritually as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how old Eminem is. Let's say he's 40s.
Nah, he hit 50 now.
Okay. So let's say he started in his 30s. Okay. 20-year difference. 30s, you're still punk.
Yeah.
You're still doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, you 53.
50s, he has a kid. He doesn't,
Mm-hmm.
he doesn't want to put out how I look at it. When I was in my 30s, the things that I was saying that I was doing, I would not want to do that in my 60s because I wouldn't want my grandchildren seeing their grandmother do that.
Yeah.
My mind is somewhere
Ah,
different.
okay.
I already
I
played
get
that.
you.
I was
I
already
get you.
there.
Yeah, yeah. I see what you're saying.
I'm, my bucket list. I always wanted to skydive.
Hmm.
At 61, I don't want to do it. It hurts.
Yeah.
I know it's
Okay.
going to hurt. When I land, it's going to hurt. I don't care how soft you tell me it is. It's going to hurt. So I'll never do that. But some of the other stuff that I did, hey,
Yeah. Right.
think about some of the stuff you did when you were younger,
Yeah. Yeah.
and would you do it now? So
Yeah.
that might be Eminem too. When he was younger, I'm going to take the chance. I'm going to do this. But now that he's older and he's made a name for himself, he might have his agents going, can't do that. You're going to ruin your career.
Okay.
So
yeah,
a lot of different ways to look at it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying too. Because when you were talking, I was like, there's another dynamic as well. As far as my cousin, for example, he stuck hearing him in a time where Eminem was in his 20s and 30s and so forth. Now he's older, different experience, a different thought process.
Right.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, but my cousin was a fan of him when he was making this stuff, and he's not in that space no more. So it could not be the drug. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I like that.
You have to look at all the circumstances. Just like I was saying when David Lee Roth left Van Halen, how perturbed I was. But then Sammy came in, and oh my God. I listen to David Lee Roth now, and I'm like, Dave, put the mic down. Buddy. No, don't wear that. You don't got that anymore, baby. Because he as I've gotten older, like, why are you doing that? You're not the rock star anymore. You sang, you made your mark. A lot of really good singers will retire at a certain age when they start to feel their voice go because they want to leave on an up note. Nobody told Dave, look, buddy, you're losing your voice. You need to stop.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Yeah. Okay. That was something that might be something I need to talk to him about when next time we talk. Yeah. Okay. And we talk about that all the time for it. Not just me and my cousin, but I hear and on YouTube and stuff like that. Your fan base, especially when it comes with artists or even the actors and so forth, you in a different time frame when it comes to what you as a fan listening to and so forth. As you get older, your thought process goes different. So some certain things you ain't gonna like no more that you were liking as a kid. So, so I guess though that it's a shift and a separation in that way and everything as well. I think that's why artists constantly gotta make sure they evolve or, in a sense, talk to that particular fan base that they had because they or grow up with their fan base. I think so. That's another.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So but yeah, that's something to think about and talk about and everything. I would like selling maybe like asking like an artist and stuff like that. When I talk with one, that's something I want to know too as well. But okay, cool. So is there anything I don't like I said I'm gonna let you go, but is there anything else that you want to talk about that we haven't talked about?
I think we've covered a little bit of everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Just it's taking care of your own mind, body, and spirit to be the best that you can.
Right.
Or something better. And just staying connected instead of disconnecting. Unfortunately, a lot of us get disconnected in one place or another because of a situation. So you work through it.
Right. That was gonna be my question. I was gonna say, like, what do you what out of everything we talked about today, like what do you think would be the biggest takeaway or takeaways that people can get from this conversation?
Don't lose track of home, you know? And we got to
Okay.
find your way back home.
Okay. Cool. And last question for artists and entertainers, like what would be your what would be the biggest takeaway that they can get from this or, as well?
For artists and entertainers, I would
Hmm.
say, again, staying grounded and being home. But if a
Hmm.
situation comes up, really question it and drill it down to find out what happened to change whatever was going on. So if all of a sudden you can't write a song, what happened?
Yeah.
Go back to that.
Okay.
If
Okay.
all of a sudden one of your bandmates doesn't mesh, what did something go on? Let's talk about it. If you lost a loved one, maybe see a medium, but it's healing through the process. It's not stopping. It's not giving up. It's not surrendering. It's
Okay.
fighting for home.
Right. Okay. All right, so we definitely can end it there. So
Yeah.
and so again, shout out, where people can find you and learn more about you and also maybe partake in your services and so forth.
Okay. So on the website, it's Connecting to Spirit with Stacey, and it's STACEY.com. And that has all my information. I'm sorry. That's my Facebook group, Connecting to Spirit with Stacey. My website
Okay.
is just Connecting to Spirit. I
Okay.
don't even know where to find myself. But those are the two best places that you can find me. If you're in the Chambersburg area near Gettysburg, you can come up to see us at Hip Gypsy Emporium. My books are on Amazon.
Hmm.
I'm actually pretty easy to find if you Google my name. I pop
Okay.
up. Niedentohl kind of sticks out.
Definitely. Okay, cool, cool. I mean, y'all check Stacey out. And Stacey, I appreciate you for coming on the show. It's been a blast.
Yeah.
And
Thanks so much.
again, we definitely talked a great deal. We definitely bounced around the board and definitely some good insights and gems in there and everything that I believe people can take home with. So again,
Yeah,
appreciate
it's
that.
it's paying attention to the spiritual health. If you're physically fit, but your mind's messed up
Yeah.
or your heart's messed up, it messes the whole thing up. And you have any artists that need to talk, you just hook them up with me and we'll chat.
Oh, most definitely. I keep you in mind. Like I said, I like to everybody that I have be a guest with, I like to kind of be some way we still collaborate in the other aspects, if not on the podcast. So yeah, definitely. Okay,
Absolutely.
cool. So yes, we finna get out of here. I'm been your host, Trea Da Fit Artist, and my guest here, Stacey Niedentohl. We out, y'all.
Yes. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. If you're looking for fitness coaching to help you reach your goals, want to join our animated network for fitness guidance, collaborations, networking, and community, or are interested in being a guest on the show, check out the links in the description. Stay creative, stay fit, and we'll holler at you next time.